provocation, and then people will be reacting and will be losing lives. So if you ask me what is the lasting solution, the lasting solution is when the government of the day makes it clear to everybody that if you engage in any conduct that in any way challenges, affronts the Constitution and the ruling of the Supreme Court, we will deal with you drastically. That is the only message that I believe will bring lasting solution.
Honorable Ayariga, I know I said finally, but it seems that maybe many are not aware where they can get the ruling such that we will be aware of what is what and who is obliged to do what. Are you able to help us in that direction, point us to where that is such that it can be enforced?
Oh, the government is aware. The president himself has spoken severally about it. Everybody knows. There's no need to even be worried about where it is. It's in the Supreme Court. If you go to the Supreme Court, the ruling is there. But everybody is aware. I mean, people may not accept it in the same way that each time the Supreme Court rules on matters, some side will disagree. You may disagree, but you are obliged to respect and comply. So there's no issue about the existence of the Supreme Court ruling. There's no existence about doubt about the position of the law on the matter. What is an issue is the fact that people choose to keep provoking and engaging in conduct that is destabilizing the peace, and the fact that as government we appear not to be firm in dealing with those who engage in such acts of provocation.
Okay.
I think that it is not worth it. There's no political benefit to anybody, allowing the situation to continue to deteriorate the way that we see it. The government of the day must be firm, courageous. It's not just public pronouncements. I mean, the president has made several public pronouncements to the effect that the Supreme Court has ruled and he will respect the Supreme Court. But if others are not respecting the Supreme Court ruling, and you are the president and you have a duty to uphold that ruling, and you don't appear to do that, you leave room for people to continue to misbehave and then create a general situation of insecurity.
Many thanks to you, Honorable Mahama Ayariga. He is the Member of Parliament for Bawku. Let me come to studio and turn to our guest. So you've heard the MP speak there. Any preliminary comments or anything you want to address in what he said, Dr. Bona?
Well, yes, thank you very much, and good morning to viewers. Good morning to my colleague. I think Honorable Ayariga spoke to a very large extent. He spoke well, but there are some issues that I thought probably he should have dealt with directly.
Such as?
Such as the ruling. Mm-hmm. Because I have looked for that ruling and looked for it and looked for it, and I can't find it anywhere. Okay. I have heard persons in authority speak about a ruling that presupposes that the issue of who is what has been settled. But what I rather have from the Supreme Court has to do with, some decree that, one of the groups went to court, and by the time they ended up in court, that particular decree, a PNDC decree, had been repealed. And so I am not sure.
You are not sure.
If that is what is purported to be the ruling. Because I have been looking for that ruling, and I thought probably he would tell us to go to the Supreme Court, go and pay for it. I would have paid for it, so that it will help me with the, when some of us are called to address this issue. And that probably is the crux of this unending conflict in Bawku.
But is it, I mean, the subtext of what I get from him is, this looks like it's even gone beyond chieftaincy. It's now an issue of criminality.
It's an issue of criminality.
People are, under the cloak of chieftaincy, attacking people, whether they're on one side or the other, or engaging in acts, not specifically because of ethnic issues, but it's cloaked in criminality. Obviously,
in every conflict, or in every, I wouldn't say war, in every conflict, there are those I call in security parlance conflictpreneurs. These are people who will smuggle in firearms, munitions, and what have you to sell. There are people who benefit largely from conflict. There are people who tend to settle scores, because then when, you know, it gets to this stage, you know, law enforcement becomes difficult. And so if you've ever, excuse me to say, chased my girlfriend, this is the time for me to come and, you know, attack you. And I know that the law will not be anywhere to come after me. And so these are other issues we can look at. But let's look at the root cause, which, because I have heard from government, government people and people from the ground and himself, you know, politicians, you know, speak to this issue of a ruling. And so, please, I'm sure
I've just been sent what is a first page of it.
Okay.
So I will share that with you, and I've asked for the additional detail.
yes.
Yeah. But let me bring in, you know, Mr. Mukhtar Mumuni with the West Africa Center for Counter-Extremism. Now that we know that our northern border is potentially at risk, what's your reading of the situation? Is it about an age-old chieftaincy conflict, or this has metamorphosed into something more than just conflict? The conflictpreneurs who benefit from arms sales or arms racketeering, or this is people coming in from outside seeking to destabilize the area?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning to you, and good morning to our viewers and my senior brother here. First of all, I would like to respond to some of the issues that have been discussed already. And top on this is the issue of the Supreme Court ruling. And the Supreme Court's ruling, or alleged ruling, is so important that we need to ensure or find some finality to it. You know, some sort of clarity that everybody gets the understanding of what has been done. Because if we're not careful, that alone has a significant impact and shapes the conduct of both parties in dealing with this matter. So we have to be very careful about these things. I've been very, very interested in this matter for several years now. And in the last 1 year, I've looked everywhere for the Supreme Court's ruling. Unfortunately, there's no anywhere that there's any document relating to the Supreme Court's ruling on the matter relating to who is the right chief, or, you know, the legitimate chief of Bawku. What we actually have is a decision by the Supreme Court relating to a matter that, you know, Dr. Bernard mentioned, where one party went to court because there's the PNDC law 75 contained a particular portion that barred one portion or one side of in the conflict from becoming, you know, chiefs of Bawku. And this was PNDC law, around the early 1983. And so they were waiting to get a chance to go to court. And they've been preparing all along, since the 1980s through the 90s, to go to court and get that law repealed to allow them, you know, to contest this chieftaincy, matter. Unfortunately, by the time they got to court, or whilst they were in the process, they got informed that the 1996, you know, Constitution repealed that particular portion. And that, so there was no case, there was no reason to proceed with that matter. And in fact, my checks revealed that Nanado Chambers, his Chambers was involved in that. And subsequently, there was another law firm called Brooks and Emisa and Co. that actually got the final decision, got the processes through the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court actually made that decision in April of 2003. Mind you, this is a very, very politically politicized matter along NDC, MPP. So they waited till MPP came to power. They went to court seeking to repeal it. And whilst they were in the process, they were told that that law has been repealed. So there was no reason to continue. So on the 28th of April 2003, that application, the application to discontinue that matter, had been granted by the Supreme Court. And I have the details on that. So this is the only piece of document that relates to the Supreme Court's dealings with this matter in this way. And so when we have official government, commentary on it, that suggests that...
It's the same thing that I have as well.
Exactly.
That's the only document flying around.
But if that is a decision of the Supreme Court, then it's a decision of the Supreme Court.
No, so that decision does not speak to the matter, the issue of who
it just talks about the fact that the law on which they were coming has been repealed, so they don't have a case.
So they can set it aside and actually go ahead and contest, the matter in terms of the position, who is the Bokunaba. They could actually do that. So this is a very, very different matter, very completely different from, the real issues. But beyond that, if you look at the nature of conflict resolution and peace building, conflict resolution and peace building go beyond the judicial decisions and legal matters. If you look at the very protracted nature of the conflict, this actually predates independence. There's a lot of hurt. There's a lot of grievances. People have lost families and friends and, children and their parents. People have lost friends. People have lost, their livelihoods, businesses and all that. There's a huge issue to deal with in terms of grievances and the hurt amongst the people. And so court decisions do not take into account this hurt, this emotional aspect of the matter. And so you need to go beyond a court ruling or court decision on matters and deal with the things that lead parties to engage in the regular violence and conflicts that we are seeing. And so I think that particular part of it has not been properly dealt with. But I want to go further to talk about, Honorable Ayaraga spoke a lot about the issue or raised concerns about the issue of the military involvement. And I think it's a matter that should be of interest to all of us. Because the role of the military and security in that part is meant to keep the peace of that area.
But is that really the case? I've heard other conflict resolution and military people tell us that when you send the military are not peace, quote unquote, peace people. They are fighters, they are soldiers. So if you go into an area and you send the military, and this came up especially in the Edra conflict issue, if you send the military in, they're not going to act as UN peacekeepers. That's not their role.
So if you're not careful, depending on who you listen to, some commentary is meant to justify certain actions or certain decisions. The military are sent there not to engage in a war. They were not sent there as in a battalion to confront any belligerent force there. They were meant to keep the peace of that area. And so if you find the military engaged in this manner, it projects them as a belligerent force and a party to the conflict and undermines government's position as a neutral arbiter or a peacekeeping force in that part.
Shouldn't it be the police that should be doing that then?
Depending on the intensity and complexity of a conflict, you would have the police in there, you would have reinforcement, and you could have, joint military police involvement in a conflict. And what we are seeing in Boku goes beyond just having police presence. And actually right now, the police and the military there have lost the deterrent capacity of security in that part. As we speak now, my sources tell me that there are sometimes over 10 armored vehicles on the street, and yet they do not constitute any deterrence to people, because people still engage in these kinds of confrontations with each other. So I think that government, and I've seen the communication from the Minister of Defense, and of course it came in very timely, but if you come out to completely deny the versions that are being put out there in terms of the negative involvement of the military, and you leave out gaps, it does not engender confidence and trust in what is going on. So you need to make sure that you investigate properly, apportion, take responsibility where there's responsibility to be taken, because the people on the ground, they have their own version of events. There are people who can own up and talk about, victims of their families and friends in this matter. So if you come out, to deny responsibility and capability in this matter, it doesn't help the people on the ground. And so we have to be very careful in terms of how, we act in communication to sanitize the situation. Today, as we speak, the single biggest feature in the conflict is the role of the youth. And it has been like that for more than 20 years.
Yeah, but the role of the youth, that's the first question. Is it criminality now? Is it beyond chieftaincy? Are there external influences?
What we're seeing is beyond just the chieftaincy
It's
contest.
beyond the chieftaincy.
A lot of people hide behind it, and not necessarily just even hiding behind it. People have reduced the confrontation to, you know, the kinds of interaction.
They are using it to settle scores.
Exactly, to settle scores. The confrontational, the adversarial relationship that has existed over time has complicated the matter. People are engaging not because they are interested in who becomes the next Bokunaba. They are settling scores with each other. And they have actually identified from both parties targets, you know, they are seeking to exact, you know, revenge. A lot of people are engaging in revenge attacks, and it's largely the young people. Okay. Social media is a big feature. Okay. You know,
let's hold on to talk about the social media. Dr. Bona wanted to come in, so let him come in, because I think Honorable Ayariga talked a whole lot about social media, radio stations, and all that, and we'll come to that. Your thoughts on how this matter has been handled so far, and the accusations that the military have been quite harsh in the way they've engaged in this week?
Well, to a very large extent, I would say that listening in the recent confrontation that unfolded, I received a call at dawn, and my intel there, I don't know where he was, but was very close to where the gunfire was coming from. So you heard
the shooting?
For 15 minutes, sustained shooting, 15 minutes. And